Hello, and welcome to Control City Freak. Today we are talking about I-40. Yay, I-40. That's right. I've been waiting for this one for a while. I know a lot of you have too. This is a great road. It is the third longest interstate highway in the United States. It goes from Barstow, California to Wilmington, names that I have ingrained in my mind just because I associate them with I-40. It is a monster, so this will probably be a pretty long video. I will say, I always wait till the end of the video to do this, but please subscribe. If I could get 40 new subscribers on I-40's first day, oh, that would be fantastic. Thanks a lot. All right, today we are talking about eastbound I-40. I-40, for a grand road, has a pretty mundane beginning here in California. It is signed for Needles. It just has this small overhead sign, and it's a Y junction, although I guess a lot of interstates start that way, 30, 20. And right away on I-40, we get one of the most famous highways on the entire interstate highway system. We are on 40 East Needles, which isn't really the best choice, but on the mileage signs, they put Kingman on the bottom line from the very beginning. So kind of weird that they use Kingman and Needles, but Needles is always the overhead sign one. And we see again Ludlow, Needles, Kingman. But as I say, at the intersections, even close into Needles, it's still just Needles. In Needles, we get I-40 East Kingman. Beyond Needles, we get Junction Arizona 95 South, Kingman 62, Flagstaff 210. So California does list Flagstaff shortly before we cross the border. And here we cross the Colorado River just a little bit beyond Needles and head into Arizona. Welcome to Arizona. They've got a great state welcome sign. On the mileage sign, we get these same control destinations that were listed in California. Here we are in Kingman, so of course it is 40 East Flagstaff, correct? We get 40 East Flagstaff Phoenix and 93 South, because 93 South will go to Phoenix. So this will eventually be the junction with I-11. In Flagstaff, we get the pretty distant control city of Albuquerque, but it is the correct choice. Albuquerque is far and away the biggest thing down the road on 40 here. This is a perfectly well-designed sign. Winslow, Holbrook, the last two cities of any significance in Arizona on 40, and then Albuquerque. I'm amazed by the differences in I-40, by the way. We have the deserts, now we're kind of up in the mountains. Very, very different variety we see on this road. We get Petrified Forest National Park 7, Gallup 77, Albuquerque 215. Welcome to New Mexico. Get ready for some bad Control City signage. The first thing we get is not too bad. It actually makes perfect sense. Grants 55, Albuquerque 131. This is just coming out of Gallup. Here's the Continental Divide, 7,275 feet. I-40 did actually have a higher point in Arizona, a couple hundred feet higher than this. And here we go with New Mexico doing its thing. 40 East Santa Rosa, a city of 2,000 some people out in the middle of nowhere, where there's a sort of important highway junction, but not that important. Absolutely should not be a control city. I'm sure the people there are great, but should not be on a major intersection like the Big I with 40 and 25 in downtown Albuquerque. Once we're out of town, we get Moriarty, Santa Rosa, and Tucumcari as the bottom line city. In Santa Rosa, Tucumcari becomes the primary control city. This should still be Amarillo. I mean, it should have been Amarillo out of Albuquerque. I know that's quite far away, but there's just not that many places that we go through here. Tucumcari would be a better signed city than Santa Rosa because it's twice the size, and you have the intersection with US 54, which is going to be a shortcut to Wichita, Kansas City, all kinds of places. We do get Amarillo on the sign here. I believe this is the first sign for Amarillo in New Mexico, 167 miles away. And at the intersection with US 54, of course, we get 40 East Amarillo once we are in Tucumcari. Awesome vista here. Welcome to Texas. Drive friendly the Texas way. Adrian, Vega, Amarillo. Those are the right choices for here. I've driven on this road a few times. I've driven this way all the way from Barstow through to here a few times, and this is right around the region where I got pulled over for going 77 miles an hour in a 75. Right around Amarillo, we see the Cadillac Ranch. You can see this from I-40. Here is a closer look. And here we go through downtown or near downtown Amarillo, the intersection with I-27, which we have seen before in the I-27 video. 40 is now signed for Oklahoma City and Fort Worth because Texas likes to give equal billing to interstates and U.S. highways. And in this case, I think that is the right choice. Here's our split with 287. So 40 Oklahoma City, 287 goes on to Fort Worth. Welcome to Oklahoma. Typical mileage sign in Oklahoma. Here's our exit for El Reno. I put this on here just because this was significant to me. I stayed in El Reno one time. This was my longest I-40 day ever. I left in Sedona, Arizona, and hit 40 in Flagstaff, and then drove all the way to El Reno. Here we approach Oklahoma City. I'm not sure what this bridge is, but it's really cool. Let me know in the comments if you know the story with this. We are now on 40 East Fort Smith, and we are meeting I-35 for Tulsa and Wichita. Tulsa, of course, because 35's impending intersection with 44, and still 40 East Fort Smith is maintained throughout the rest of the time in Oklahoma. And we enter Arkansas. This is a pretty good sign. We've got South 540 Fort Smith. I'm surprised they haven't changed that to I-49 yet. Maybe they're planning to run I-49 in a different section and not through there. But we do get East 4249 for Fayetteville and Little Rock. So that's a good, smart signage right there to let us know that 49's coming up. And also because this used to be 540 duplexed, but is no more. A typical Arkansas mileage sign. Here we get 430 South Texarkana because it's meeting I-30. 40 now gets east for Little Rock and Memphis. So Memphis is now on the board. Here is near our junction with I-30. I stayed at a hotel back in the 80s when I was like 9-10 years old. Holiday Inn, Holidome. You know, it's got the indoor pool, it's got the golf course, it's got an indoor shuffleboard, it's got ping pong and an arcade, and it's got a view of this sign. We could see this sign out the window. Basically, heaven on earth for a kid. And here is where 40 and 30 actually split, or rather 40 begets 30. Here is where I-57 will meet I-40, from what I understand. I-57 is scheduled to come to Little Rock. It'd be real interesting if they do the classic I-57 thing and just change this to North 57 Chicago. 122 miles to Memphis. Arkansas is doing its usual thing. We're signing 55 North for Blytheville because that is in-state, but also St. Louis, two control cities, as Arkansas often does. I'm fine with it as long as they have the major one on the second line like they do here. 40 and 55 are going to Memphis, although not together. And we see we're going to have a split here. 40 Memphis-Nashville, 55 Memphis-Jackson. After splitting up, we are now just on I-40. I'm not sure if it's possible to do this yet. This is the DeSoto Bridge that was under duress and I believe might still be closed, diverting traffic on the I-55 bridge right now. But here's what it looks like on Google Street View, and we see Tennessee welcomes you. We get a nice shot of the Memphis skyline as we finish crossing the river. Tennessee is smart to do this. South 240 Jackson Miss instead of just Jackson, because of course there is a Jackson, Tennessee as well. And in fact, it would be going the other way on East 40. And 40 is also wise to bypass Jackson on its signs and go straight for Nashville to avoid any confusion with Jackson, Mississippi. According to Google Maps, this should be I-69, but apparently it's still US 51 here. Here we meet 240 West, Jackson, Mississippi, and 40 East Nashville again. Now on the outskirts of Nashville, far outskirts, 840 is a very distant loop, about 30 miles out of town. They're saying Knoxville, Franklin. I think probably Franklin, Murfreesboro would be better there because it's got to be faster to take 40 through town than 840 way out to get to Knoxville. Coming closer into Nashville, here's our inner loop with 440. Now we get 65 North Louisville and 4065 Knoxville, Huntsville. Lots of vills in Nashville, lots of vills. Now 40 to 24 East for Knoxville and Chattanooga, where 65 splits off to go to Huntsville. 24 and 2 North 65 for Clarksville, Louisville, so we loop back around to 65 if you go that way. And 4024 Knoxville, Chattanooga. I like all the signs painted on the pavement there too, how we have all three routes right there. That's pretty cool. Now 40 and 24 split, 40 for Knoxville, 24 for Chattanooga. Outside of Knoxville, 40 meets I-75, so 75 is also signed for Chattanooga, and 40 and 75 will go together to Knoxville. This is after 75 is left. We now get the sign for I-275 for Lexington, because it will meet I-75 and go to Lexington, Kentucky. And 40 East Asheville, our first sign for Asheville, the next city on this road. I-81 North Bristol, I don't love that, but I don't know. Tennessee does such a fantastic job otherwise. Tennessee almost feels like it's like the, Arizona or Utah of the South. They do really great work with control cities, I'd have to say. But now we come to North Carolina, and the same thing cannot be said for them. Although we do have a majestic entrance into North Carolina. I drove this before too. The border between Tennessee and North Carolina, you're right in the Smoky Mountain Ridge. It's fantastic. Here we are in Asheville, and North Carolina starts up with its North Carolina-ing by having 40 East, Hickory, and Biltmore Estate. I don't know, Biltmore Estate? I know it's a famous thing in Asheville, but it's not like it's Disney World or even the Alamo. I don't know why it needs to be on an overhead sign like this. And Hickory for the primary control? Hickory, definitely too small. I've driven this. I've never heard of Hickory, so I'm not from North Carolina, so this sign is completely useless for me. Annoyingly, as we approach Hickory, we're going to meet US 321 at exit 123, and we get Gastonia, exit 123A. Again, that's not useful for anybody from out of town who doesn't know what Gastonia is. And we see that the main cities on the sign are for Hickory, Lenoir, I don't know, and Lincolnton. What's not on that sign that should be? Charlotte. If you're going eastbound on I-40 through North Carolina and you're trying to get to Charlotte, this is the road you need to get on, 321. Put Charlotte on this one. I know 321 doesn't go to Charlotte, but that was what would be useful for long-distance travelers. We now get 40 East Statesville, which is a little better than Hickory, but not much. Statesville at least is an interstate junction. And we see this on I-77. We now get 40 East Winston-Salem, which I totally agree with. 421 is headed toward the Salem Parkway into downtown Winston-Salem. 40 is now 40 East Greensboro, which also makes sense. This one, though, South 285, Lexington. We just had a Lexington not too long ago. Lexington, Kentucky, which is like the real Lexington, much more famous Lexington, other than one in Massachusetts that's a million miles away. Why not a Lexington NC here? That seems needlessly confusing for out-of-town drivers. This is quite a sign. North Carolina's got some monster signs. So we have North Carolina's own I-73, 85, and 840 all kind of in the mix. 40 is going to Greensboro and Martinsville. So Greensboro does work. That's where 40 is heading. And this sign, I don't know, this would seem to be extremely confusing if you're going at speed. So many numbers on here, so many U.S. highways thrown on here. 40 East and Business Loop 85 North, for some reason given equal precedence as a proper, zero-digit interstate highway. And it's signed for Durham. 40 doesn't go for Durham. 40 is the most prominent road on that board, and it doesn't go to Durham. It should say Raleigh. And here, North Carolina strikes once again. This is where 40 and 85 meet, but we don't have any kind of pull-throughs whatsoever, so we don't know that we are getting onto northbound I-85 at this point, only that southbound 85 is this way, exit this way for Danville and Charlotte. Very weird how they do this. And also, no explanation for why the exits change. So this is exit 227, and our next exit's 132. The reason is because we keep the I-85 exit numbers, but since we don't know we're merging on I-85, it would just be confusing for anybody driving this. 4085, Durham, Raleigh, a correct sign. And here is where they split, and this is also done correctly. Here's where we meet 440. We are signed for Raleigh, and we even have the next control city down the road, Wilmington, signed here. Wow. Unfortunately, that doesn't last for too long, because now we get 40 East Benson, Wilmington. And it turns out Benson is the primary control. We're going to ignore Wilmington, and we're going to have 40 East Benson, because that's where we meet I-95, even though it's not a very big city. Again, no offense to the good people of Benson, 40 East Benson, once more. And we meet 95, we finally get 40 Wilmington again. 95 North, Rocky Mount, Smithfield, South Benson, Fayetteville. I almost feel like this sign should just say 95 North Richmond, 95 South Jacksonville, or 95 North Washington, 95 South Miami. So it actually gives the motorist a sense of place of where 95 is going, other than north-south. Now we near the end of 40. We have 40's last child three-digit interstates, 140 for Topsail Island, New Bern, and Myrtle Beach. 40 gets a laundry list of control cities now: Wilmington, Wrightsville Beach, Carolina Beach. Exit 420, dude. But also, that's the end of 40. Remember I said at the beginning of this that I-40 has kind of a ho-hum beginning in Barstow. Here in Wilmington, it has even less fanfare. This is our last exit, exit 420, and we continue. There's no end I-40 sign. The only indication you get that I-40 is ending is that suddenly we get a sign for a school zone speed limit, and up ahead there's a school zone crosswalk. That's the only way we know that it ends. Very weird, very weird. Great road that deserves better than this for its end, for sure. All right, let's look at Todd's the way it should be. If we look at eastbound 40, in the western half, I pretty much agree, other than with New Mexico, so I'd say east Flagstaff, although I could make an argument for Kingman there too. Kingman is growing, and eventually I-11 will be there, so I wouldn't be opposed to that. But for now, Flagstaff, Albuquerque, Amarillo, Oklahoma City, Fort Smith, Little Rock, Memphis, and then I would say Nashville, Knoxville, Asheville, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, Raleigh, Wilmington, which are all there, but I think it could be cleaned up a little bit. Anyway, it's a long road. Thank you so much for watching Control City Freak. We made it all the way through 40, and we'll try and do another 40 next week. If you can think of any favorites of I-40 that you have, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll be able to add it to the westbound video. My name is Todd. I really appreciate your viewership. Please like, please subscribe, and keep on trucking.